Isaac be sacrificed. And Abraham took him to the mountain to sacrifice him obediently. That story always got my attention because I don't know that I could sacrifice my child. I know I couldn't, in fact. I would sacrifice myself first. But Abraham did what God told him to do. He took him to the mountain, put him on the altar to sacrifice him. And God provided a ram in the bush. Told him to stop. But Abraham was a man of faith, a man of compassion. God, thank God, showed compassion and mercy to Abraham. So Isaac could live. At the age of 40, Isaac married Rebekah, who couldn't have children, who was barren. Sarah had Isaac when she was she 88 or 90? 90. At the age of 90. Seemed to run in the family, didn't it? Her only son Isaac married a woman who couldn't have children. Isaac prayed to God for Rebekah's sake and she became pregnant. Scripture says that the babies, this is a quote, jostled each other within her. She had 2 babies. And they jostled each other. Before they were born, they were contending with each other. They were fighting. And it didn't change a lot after they were born. She asked the Lord, what is this that's happening to me? Genesis 25:23 said, the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Genesis 25:24-34 tells us when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and the whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. The boys grew up and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country. While Jacob was, I love this, a quiet man, staying among the tents. I'm not sure what Jacob did to benefit the tribe, but he was a quiet man. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished. Jacob replied, first sell me your birthright. Look, I'm about to die, Esau said. What good is the birthright to me? But Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. Lentils are beans. This didn't even have any meat in it. And he gave up his birthright for some bean soup. He ate and drank, and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Esau gave away his birthright for a pot of stew. His birthright, his firstborn, he was going to be the major inheritor of everything Isaac had, because it went to the firstborn. But Jacob, who was a little deceitful, in fact, the word Jacob became synonymous with deceit, tricked Esau out of what was his. Part of the birthright also was a covenant promises God had made to Abraham. And Esau walked away from those for a pot of stew. Later on, Jacob, with the help of his mama Rebekah, fooled or blind Isaac in order to get the blessings of Isaac for Jacob. Again, these were things that should have gone to the firstborn. But sneaky Jacob and his mama tricked Isaac into believing, and his mama tricked Isaac into believing that he was blessing Esau, when in fact they put goat skin on him so he'd be hairy. But they put Esau's clothes on him so he'd smell like a man of the earth, somebody who was out in the country. And Isaac blessed Jacob. When Esau came in, Isaac realized what had happened, and he had no further blessing for Esau. Esau got a little bit perturbed in all that, as you imagine he would. And he said, my Bible says Esau held a grudge. I love that. Of course he held a grudge. He was mad. Because Esau was heard saying that Isaac was getting old, and when Isaac died, that Jacob was going to die too. So Jacob took off, and he fled to his mother's people, his uncle Laban in Haran. Jacob worked 7 years for his uncle under the promise that he would receive his daughter Rachel in marriage. When the 7 years were up, Jacob asked for the hand of his daughter in marriage. This time Jacob got fooled, and he ended up married to the older sister Leah, because it wasn't proper for a younger sister to marry before an older sister. But his uncle Laban told him that he would give Rebekah to him in the near future if he worked another 7 years. Jacob went to work. Worked another 7 years for Rachel. See the consequences of your own deceptions. You can find yourself deceived also. Payback can be a dog. After those 7 years, Jacob worked another 6 years. He worked 20 years total for Laban. And Laban gave him what was considered the lesser animals from his field, the spotted ones, the ones with problems. But God blessed those, and they started multiplying to the point that Jacob had a huge herd of beasts. Jacob became a wealthy man for what was his. And he started hearing that Laban was making comments about the fact that his herds were increasing while Laban's herds weren't increasing. So Jacob decided it was time he didn't have to go home, he had to get up out of there. So he snuck off. Laban followed him. It took him 7 days to reach him. They made accommodations, to put it mildly, at that point. They made peace among themselves. Jacob was told to return to his own homeland, return to his own people. Jacob knew if he returned to his people, he'd have to deal with his brother Esau 20 years later. He assumed Esau wouldn't be real happy to see him. And he sent forth a huge gift to Esau. I mean, goats and donkeys and ewes and rams and camels and cows. And he was trying to pave the way for some peace. He sent this before him. It's like he's trying to buy peace to make up for the theft of Esau's birthright. This is 20 years later. This gets us to the heart of our message. Before Jacob met with Esau, and you've got the scripture in front of you. Let's read through that first, and we can talk about it. Then we can exegete. Genesis 32, 22 through 30. Let's read together. That night, Jacob got up.
Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared."
God came to Jacob in a form that Jacob could wrestle. God came to Jacob in a form that Jacob could look at face to face and not die. God had told Moses,